ahead of the divides that pretty much shape the world. Today, we are going to now talk about the two very important aspects. One, far from peace, the Russia-Ukraine war has entered threatening new phase, where red lines are in fact being blurred, leaving Putin more defiant than ever before. And later, we discover and talk more about the US-Iran talks, whether they signal cautious optimism when it comes to a deal. We decode why Tehran's nuclear program is being seen as a threat around the world and the fault lines that matter in this complex issue. Let's first get our top story on the show. All right, as I said, the first story that we are now looking at, an emboldened Russia, a frustrated Washington, Europe and Ukraine left sidelined, with roadmap towards peace looking nowhere in sight. The Russia-Ukraine war seems to be back to its early stages, and viewers, that's extremely disturbing, simply because we seem to be farther and farther away from where exactly is that peace talk, peace negotiation, peace settlement really looking at. And why do we say that? Why is it that there is some sense of similarity? Well, the Russian aerial assault is back, and it's back on Kyiv and several other prominent Ukrainian cities. They have happened leading into a new phase of war, and that new phase includes Ukraine now being in a position to strike deep inside Russian territory. That means that Ukraine enters Russia. And will that mean Russia hitting back and NATO responding? No one knows, because those weapons that Ukraine is being armed with are NATO weapons. And this report tells you in greater detail exactly what all is happening that could change the way Russia-Ukraine war is going from here on. Take a look.
Amid stalled ceasefire talks, the Russia-Ukraine war has entered a dangerous new phase, as the largest aerial attack in the war took place on Sunday. A barrage of 400 drones and missiles struck capital Kyiv, 30 other cities and a dozen airports. Kremlin claimed the aerial attacks were in response to Ukraine's persistent attacks on Russian infrastructure. This has dashed all hopes for peace or any roadmap towards it. Three years into the war, Europe has shrugged off its hesitation to strike deep inside Russian territory, empowering Ukraine by lifting restrictions on weapons supplied to the country. By all means, a strike in the heart of Russia will most certainly start a chain reaction of a much bigger response from Moscow. Roughly 398 drones and 69 missiles rained down on Ukraine on Sunday, including Iranian-designed Shahed drones, killing at least 12 and injuring dozens. Putin's desire for comprehensive military victory has alienated the Trump administration, which is both wary and frustrated, and the war of words between Washington and Moscow is the testimony to fading possibilities of a US-brokered peace formula.
I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin.
Действительно признательны американцам и лично президенту Трампа за содействие в организации и в запуске этого переговорного процесса. И это очень важное достижение. Конечно, одновременно с этим это очень ответственный момент, который связан, конечно, с эмоциональной перегрузкой всех абсолютно и с эмоциональными реакциями. Вот. Мы внимательно отслеживаем всю реакцию. Вместе с тем.
With Trump's playbook only having sanctions as recourse, peace prospects are getting dimmer. More so since Moscow's well-oiled war economy is now working efficiently for Kremlin's primary economic objective. This explains why the threat of sanctions has not deterred Putin from continuing his aerial assault on Ukraine. Trump's flip-flopping foreign policy and his love-hate relationship with Putin has meant that his 24-hour commitment to end the war looks like one of his many empty promises.
All right, that tells you the context as far as why we are talking about it. I'm going to now put forth the back and forth that's happened between Trump and Putin and why peace looks farther away than ever before. Let's put that out. Powerless Trump versus, well, defiant Putin. That's what it's looking like right now. These are exact words, viewers, and phrases that have been said between the two leaders. Vladimir, stop. And then, of course, he goes on to intensify the strikes on Ukraine. Clearly, word right now has no meaning as far as these leaders are concerned. They're not taking each other's word on face value. Next up, then there is a 24-hour deadline to end the war that has been completely forgotten. So tough talk, no action. He threatens sanctions on Moscow. And then, of course, what happens in response is that Russia is stalling or has stalled truce talks on several occasions. He skipped the Istanbul meeting as well, which was probably the closest the world came to be able to understand how peace can actually take place. Let's get the next and the last graphic point, which of course is that 24-hour deadline was given as far as this war needs to end. The fact that these are being made several times again and again sort of gets lost in the fact that this 3-year war is probably farthest away from being able to get some sort of a closure. Let's quickly now get in a voice from Moscow to discuss this in greater detail. Dasha joins me from Moscow to understand how it's looking like. Dasha, we spoke last week as well, and the week before that, and the week before that. Unfortunately, the world seems to be going round and round in circles with no solutions in sight. It looks like we are farther away from peace than ever before. Dasha.
Well, as things are perceived here in the Russian capital, it is Ukraine that is not interested in finding the negotiated settlement to this conflict, and Moscow insists that it is almost ready to hand over to Ukraine its memorandum of how it sees the end to this conflict, and hopes that Kiev will be very seriously looking at this document as well. We also hear the Russian officials repeatedly saying that the root causes of the conflict have to be eliminated. There is the 13th International Security Conference that is taking place these very moments in the Russian capital. And if you listen to the Russian officials who have been speaking there, they all say that the multipolar world order is being established, and it is the old perception of the West as the hegemon that is destroying all the security architecture. So from the Russian perception, these negotiations between Moscow and Kiev should continue, but also Moscow insists again on this elimination of the root causes, but also on the realities on the ground. And with that said, Moscow has been making more gains in the area of the operation, as well as in the area where Moscow would like to establish the so-called buffer zone in Ukraine, that is in the Sumy as well as the Kharkiv region. And also we are seeing the intensification of the Ukrainian attacks against the Russian region. The MOD this night reported about more than 300 Ukrainian drones being intercepted over the Russian regions, some of them even over the capital, Moscow.
Leave it there, Dasha. Thanks much for joining me from Moscow. Well, viewers, as far as this issue is concerned, the Russia-Ukraine war is not headed for peace anytime soon, and there are reasons for it. No one wants to end the war. There are no incentives to end the war at this stage. The question one is asking, is Putin better off with an ongoing war? It looks like that. The reason for that is that he wants more military victories under his belt before he sits on a table with no ceasefire, no preconditions, and just an entrenched position. But that's exactly what it's turning out for Donald Trump as well. A ceasefire is nowhere in sight. Any possible settlement or even a broad structure is not in place. What we are now fearing is that the world may move on to possibly another conflict. 3 years have gone by. How long before there's any possibility of the two sides being made to come together? No one knows. On that note, I'm going to slip into a short break, come back on the other side, talk more about, well, some of the other fault lines that we are exploring, the US-Iran fault line, and why the world needs to sit up and take notice. More on that on the other side. Stay with us.
I bought cars on finance, so I've made my claim.
If our lenders charged hidden commissions, then I've made my claim.
I could be owed thousands.
I've made my claim.
I've made my claim.
I've made my claim.
I've made my claim. It's so quick and simple.
You could be owed thousands in hidden commissions from vehicles bought on finance since 2007, even without the details.
I've made my claim.
Trust myclaimgroup.co.uk.
Claims made simple.
Sun's out, fun's out. At Tesco Mobile, our deals will help you get the most out of summer. Get a SIM with 100 gigs of data for just £16 a month with Club Card prices. And what's more, we'll help you save on your summer activities by collecting £20 worth of Club Card points too. How you choose to spend them is up to you. It pays to be connected. Search Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
What they don't tell you about getting older is how much fun it can be. Enjoying all the things you've worked so hard for. Spending time with the people that really matter. Not to mention, finally finding that precious time for yourself. I don't want anything taking my best years away from me, but like so many people, I've seen the heartbreak that dementia can cause. That's why I'm asking everyone to order this essential free guide from Alzheimer's Research UK. It's called Your Brain Matters. We all know what's good for our heart and our lungs, but do you know how to keep your brain healthy too? Well, this guide tells you how, in 7 steps you can start taking right now, whatever your age. Just ring the number on screen to get your free copy. Inside you'll find facts and tips that can keep your brain healthy and help reduce your risk of developing dementia. It's advice you can really trust from leading dementia scientists. Read it, keep it, and check back whenever you need to. Order your free copy now. Call Alzheimer's Research UK on 0800 035 5984 or text BRAIN2 to 78866. Think of it as another way of planning for your best years, because your brain really matters.
With Post Office Over 50s life cover, enjoy peace of mind knowing your family will receive a guaranteed payout when you're gone. UK resident 50 to 80, you're guaranteed acceptance. No health checks and from just £1.15 a week. Plus free 24/7 GP access with the health and wellbeing benefit. Purchase and receive a £125 gift card for Amazon.co.uk, Tesco or M&S. Call Post Office on 0800 171 2211.
We are now on to a hot button issue with complexities galore. Iran's nuclear program, there have been 4 rounds of talks. And since then, US and Iran, they've made some very incremental progress. Of course, not conclusive by a stretch. As far as a nuclear deal is concerned, it looks farther than ever before. Trump seeks complete nuclear disarmament. Iran believes that there's elbow room. It downplays Washington's threats, saying Iran will survive. Deal or not? Now you should keep. Now, why is it that we should be caring about the Iran deal? Why is it that it matters to the world? Well, how does it impact global stability is the most important part. And I'm going to explain to our viewers exactly why is it that Iran's nuclear arsenal, if at all it happens, why it impacts everybody. And this is the region where Iran's RIT plays large. And there is, of course, this axis of organizations, terror organizations leading all the way back to a country that doesn't have a nuclear arsenal right now, but is working towards it. There is Lebanon. In Lebanon, there is Hezbollah. Then, of course, there is Hamas. There is Iraq's Kataib Hezbollah. Of course, in Yemen, there are the Houthi rebels. They are the ones who've been firing those long-range missiles that impact the entire Red Sea. Next, in Palestinian territories, of course, there is Hamas, and in Syria, then there is the other as well. Then there is one in Bahrain as well that is there. This is the entire nexus of organizations, of outfits that go back to the axis that leads to Iran, a country that still doesn't have, as I said, a nuclear weapon. But imagine how this will reshape if it does have a nuclear weapon, if it does have a nuclear arsenal that can have more than just civilian purposes. And that's the reason why we need to care about this. That's the reason why we need to know which way the world and the world's peace negotiations, peace ambitions are going as far as the nuclear arsenal of a potential nuclear arsenal of Iran is concerned. And what's the story right now? This report brings us up to speed with exactly what is happening as far as Iran-US talks are concerned. Take a look.
Iran's nuclear program has long been a critical fault line in the Middle East, a symbol of national pride for Tehran, while a source of anxiety for the West. Since the early days of its nuclear program, Iran has insisted that its nuclear ambitions remain focused on civilian purposes, aimed at energy production and medical research, and not nuclear weapons. Yet, suspicions run deep. From the US to the global nuclear watchdog, the International Atomic Energy Agency is skeptical of Tehran's true intentions after Iran's secret nuclear enrichment facilities were exposed in 2002, breaking the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty and eroding global trust. Today, Iran reportedly possesses over 275 kgs of uranium, enriched to 60%. That's dangerously close to the 90% threshold needed for a nuclear weapon. The world has tried to contain Iran's nuclear ambitions over the past 50 years, the most significant example being the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, signed between Iran and the P5+1 countries, including the US, Russia, China, among others. That deal puts strict limits on Iran's uranium enrichment in exchange for sanctions relief.
از امروز دیگر برنامه هسته‌ای ایران با بهانه‌های واهی به عنوان تهدید صلح و امنیت برای جهان و برای منطقه نیست، بلکه برنامه هسته‌ای وسیله‌ای برای فناوری نوین در مسیر توسعه کشور و ثبات و امنیت منطقه خواهد بود.
Yet in a move that upended the Middle East forever, Donald Trump unilaterally exited the deal in 2018, reinstating US sanctions on Tehran, leaving Iran to expand its nuclear infrastructure in retaliation. The sticking point remains Iran sees uranium enrichment as a sovereign right under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, while the West fears a nuclear-armed Tehran is a threat to global stability, while Israel sees Iran and its nuclear program as an existential threat given their contentious history. While indirect talks between US and Iranian officials are ongoing, with both sides signaling that a deal is close, the stakes could not be higher. Beyond the geopolitical chessboard, a collapsed deal could mean higher oil prices, regional instability, and a renewed nuclear arms race in the Middle East. Washington demands a complete disarmament of Iran's nuclear program. Tehran seeks a fair and honorable agreement that allows limited nuclear activity in exchange for sanctions relief. Only time will tell whether diplomacy will be able to diffuse one of the most dangerous flashpoints in global geopolitics. With Disha Bagchi, Parmeshwar Bava for NDTV.
So we put the context for you. We've explained to you why exactly Iran's nuclear pile, possible nuclear pile, and talks with US are of such importance to the world. We told you the fact, what happens, how the region will change, if at all, Iran does get the nuclear arsenal. What is the status of the talks? We told all of you. Now we're going to come to the fault line that exists in this entire possibilities that this entire issue raises. Let's put that out. First fault line that we are exposing as far as one within Iran. You have the two blocks in Iran, one reformists. In fact, the present president has come on a reformist agenda. He puts those creds out there for everyone to see. But does that clash completely with the supreme leader, remember he is the big boss in Iran, the final word. He feels that US is an untrustworthy adversary. And in fact, that has been the bedrock of the US-Iranian relationship. In contrast, Pezeshkian thinks that at some point of time, we've got to talk simply because we've got the American sanctions to be lifted, and the only way for that is that there is progress on those talks. So that's the first fault line. Which way the political thought process in Iran is going to go is going to be extremely important to decide whether or not these talks progress. Next up, then the second fault line that exists right now, this is within Iran itself, that there is such division as far as the thought process is concerned. Now let's talk about the division of thought in the P5 club, P5, the big five club, the big boys club, who essentially decide everything that matters in the world. One can dispute how effective their writ really is, but the fact is they are the ones who are largely the decision-making bodies, for want of a better word. There is a division as well. You have Russia and China on one side. They support Iran and they oppose sanctions. It has nothing to do with Iran. It has everything to do with America. The three of them, that is Russia, China, Iran, now form a very close coterie of an anti-American bloc. They've been doing military exercises together, whether it's in the Black Sea or whether it's in other parts of the world. They've been conducting regular military exercises. There have been exchanges of economic possibilities as well, all with a very clear view that it is an anti-America bloc. On the other side, of course, is where you have US and Europe. Europe remains neutral, another big fault line, because at the end of the day, it's, as I said, it's America versus an anti-America bloc. The third and the final fault line that we are putting out is that as far as Iran is concerned, yes, US seeks nuclear disarmament and it wants these talks to move ahead. And as far as Russia and China are concerned, well, they've been providing financial support to Iran to essentially ensure that they prop up the regime as long as they can, and it can withstand the sanctions. That's the second part. Now let's get into the other fault line that we are talking about. Iran says that it cannot trust the US to honor deals. And at the other end, you have US saying that Iran could continue uranium enrichment, something that it has huge ramifications. And lastly, Iran wants the talks to be limited to just nuclear issues. They want that, you know what, we're going to be putting out a nuclear enrichment program. We're only going to talk about that, nothing else, because we're only doing it for civilian purposes, something that America doesn't agree. They say that you've got to bring the elephant in the room. That is, that are you going to create some sort of a ballistic missile and disrupt the whole region? That is another fault line, another premise on which there are deep divisions and why there is very little progress that is being made on this issue. This is exactly what the crux of the entire matter is concerned, viewers. Which brings me, in fact, now to talk about the final point as far as this issue is concerned, that is blinkers off. Well, viewers, US and Iran have held talks. They've made partial progress in the past, and then all of it was rolled back. An interim pact was signed in 2013. There was a Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA, that was signed in 2015, only for it to all be rolled back in search of a better deal under Trump's earlier administration. But there are chances that Iran is now closer to a nuclear bomb than ever before. So there goes your best deal on the table, doesn't it? In Trump's eternal hunt for the best possible deal, there are multiple fault lines that are now coming to fore. If Iran continues its nuclear enrichment, the entire Middle East could flare up. Why? Because Iran does not recognize Israel, and the latter faces an existential threat for Iran. We played out that axis of terror outfits that lead all the way to Tehran, didn't we? That is an axis that exists without a nuclear arsenal. If it does, well, Middle East could really do flare up. Add to it the fact that if talks fail, the Iran-Saudi Arabia relationship will undergo a major change. There will be some sort of a greater rapprochement that will take place between the two sides. The 2019 Houthi attack on Aramco was largely left unaddressed by Washington during Trump's earlier tenure. It made Riyadh realize that it is strategically more advantageous to have better ties with Tehran, a Shia-Sunni fault line that has for long defined and shaped the region. It could be reshaped once again if these talks fail. Well, viewers, on that note, we come to an end of this edition of Fault Lines. We're going to come back, expose more divides, greater divisions around the world. Till then, thanks so much for watching.
If you have cancer, you may feel overwhelmed with worries.
Will I lose my hair?
How bad will my side effects be?
How do I cope with waiting?
What happens now?
Whatever your cancer worries, Macmillan is here for you. Whether you're anxious about side effects, waiting for test results or appointments, or just need someone to listen, don't struggle alone. Whatever you need to ask, we're here for you 7 days a week. Call Macmillan for free now on 0808 258 8000.
I think that there's something that's always there that I just need to uncover. Like, I know I'm gonna get there, but I have to be patient with myself. That's probably the scary part for me. And it's okay, like, if you completely pivot and change. You know, you have to be comfortable with that.
Whether you're setting up a new nest, starting your own flock, or they just keep on growing, get more time to pay with VeryPay. You can buy now and pay up to 12 months later, and pay no interest, with nothing to pay at checkout. And you can easily keep track of payments in the Very app. More time to pay with VeryPay.
Oh, wasn't he lovely? That young man at Avanti Travel Insurance.
Yeah, very.
He was so reassuring. They covered all our medical conditions, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Your diabetes, my dodgy hip.
And the rest.
Even at your age, love. Love?
Oh, great.
Oh, love.
Avanti Travel Insurance cover most pre-existing health conditions for all ages. That's travel reassurance. Call or go online.
I knew I should have got the Flamingo.
Just sorted my guaranteed over 50 plan with Sun Life. There's even a cash payout. Nice one. It's given me the confidence to look after myself. I've started learning jiu-jitsu.
Come on!
Search Sun Life Plan today and get a free gift card.
It's pandemonium, it's pandalicious, it's fantastic. It's the world of Panda Bingo.
I like to make a cup of tea, get settled on the sofa and play Panda Bingo. It's like a little bit of me time. Well, me and the pandas.
Whether I'm out and about on my mobile or just at home on the laptop, I can play my favourite Panda Bingo games anytime, anywhere. I just love it.
Brilliant bingo rooms, great games, out of this world offers. Join today at pandabingo.com/bingo.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.